You're tuned into 3CIR, and if you can hear a little buzz in the air, that's not the studio. That's Anzac Week, mate. It hits different. I'm Joel Slate Cairns.
And I'm Ryan Jury Delaney. If you're new here, welcome to the convoy. If you're a regular, you know the drill. This is the show where we translate big, sometimes heavy topics into the kind of chat you'd have over a cuppa after dawn service.
At 3CIR, we're built on 5 words we actually live by: courage, commitment, camaraderie, integrity, respect. Not just some motto stuck on a wall, it's how the team works, it's why this place exists.
Founded by veterans for veterans and for anyone in uniform or out of it trying to find the next step. We help you turn what you've already done into formal quals through recognition of prior learning, and if you want to study online, we've got that too. Also, the transition doesn't feel like a cliff edge.
Today, we're diving into something close to the bone: Anzac Day, and what homecoming really means. There's this line that stuck with me: every war is different, or every war is the same. Depends who you ask.
Yeah. On Tuesday, blokes and women from World War II families all the way to Afghanistan and Iraq will be shoulder to shoulder. Not comparing medals, not trying to one-up each other's nightmares, just remembering and looking after one another. That's the same part.
But step away from the march and some of those younger vets feel like aliens walking down their own high street. That's the different part. And it matters, not as a competition, but because the way we fought and the way we came home changed.
Right? I think about how fast modern deployments spin up and wind down. You're on a mission in a valley one day, dust in your teeth, and 72 hours later, you're in Sydney Airport trying to pick a sandwich. The nervous system goes, what just happened?
Mick Bainbridge nailed it. 4 tours with 2nd Commando, 14 years in, and he described that whiplash perfectly. Going from kinetic ops, actively seeking the enemy, to figuring out why the coffee shop is out of almond milk. It's not just a vibe shift, it's a physiological gear change.
And for some, that gear sticks. He talked about anxiety, depression, getting diagnosed with PTSD. Thousands of soldiers have. It's like divers who shoot to the surface too fast. The bends, but for your head and heart.
I remember that plane drop in too. You're corkscrewing down on approach, tires hit like a sledgehammer, then you step out into air that smells like heat and diesel and something you don't want to identify. Terran Kaut had this, call it a cocktail, and that becomes your normally.
Then suddenly your normal is a suburban living room with a TV that's too loud and walls that are too quiet. That gives me goosebumps even saying it. And here's the tricky part. Sometimes Afghanistan felt, in Mick's words, simpler. The rules were harsh but clear. Back home, everything's got a million shades of grey.
Exactly. At war, you've got mission, parameters, you know what your team's doing. Home's got bills, school pickups. What do you do now? Conversations with well-meaning strangers who've never held a mate's kit after a contact.
And the casualties don't stop at the airfield. Australia lost 40 in Afghanistan out of about 25,000 who served. Special operations wore a lot of that pain. Mick's regiment lost 11. He was in the bird behind the Black Hawk that went down in 2010. That kind of thing doesn't end when the last rotor stops spinning.
That's why Anzac Day is not just nostalgia. It's a vital reset button. It's a day where young veterans don't have to explain themselves, and older vets don't have to be the only ones carrying the story. Everyone can say, we see you, we remember with you.
And it's why we're banging on about the younger voices finding their place. For a long time, the ceremonies were very World War I shaped, as they should be in one sense. Those sacrifices are the foundation, but if the story stops there, a lot of modern vets feel left out of their own day.
So, let's put a marker down. If you served in Iraq or Afghanistan or on any modern op, and you feel like you're standing at your own party, wondering if anyone will talk to you, you're not imagining that, and you're not alone. We hear you. Many of us are you.
Stick with us, because later we're going to get specific about ways to bridge that gap. RPL, study pathways, community work that actually helps, and one very practical trick you can use on Anzac Day to reconnect without feeling like you're performing your trauma for strangers. We'll get to that.
Before we dive further, little context for the non-military listeners. When Mick talked about going out offensively, that's the job in certain units. Not waiting for trouble, hunting it down to protect others. That culture runs on trust, rehearsals, ritual. You learn to live at 110%.
Then there's the environment. Picture this, 50 plus degrees, high altitude, brightness like someone turned the sun up. You adapt. Your body, your routines, even your sense of humor warps around it. Anyone else remember laughing a little too hard at jokes you wouldn't repeat back home? That gallows humor keeps you sane.
Yeah, it's a pressure relief valve. Doesn't always translate when you bring it through customs, and that's part of the decompression problem. We don't really have a decompression culture. Planes used to stop for days on the way home from earlier wars. Now you go direct. Wheels up, wheels down, welcome back to Woolies.
So, what helps? Short answer: community, purpose, and recognition that doesn't feel like a pat on the head. I'll add a fourth: structure. Not the kind that boxes you in, the kind that gives you rails to run on while your nervous system stops twitching.
That's where 3CIR tries to be useful. Recognition of prior learning is literally, let's translate your service into civilian. Leadership, risk management, project planning, logistics, HR, those aren't soft skills, they're strategic assets. RPL helps you get the piece of paper that proves it.
If you've managed a section or a troop, you've done HR, whether you liked it or not. Performance mentoring, conflict resolution, workforce planning. That's why a certificate IV in human resources makes sense for some vets. It puts civilian language around things you've been doing under pressure.
And if government work calls your name, policy, compliance, investigations, those certificate IV in government pathways can be a smart pivot, especially if you're carrying that protective instinct and want to keep serving, just in a different uniform.
I can hear someone in the car right now going, yeah, but study? My brain's fried. Hear me. It doesn't have to be a 2-year slog, and it doesn't erase what you've done. It builds on it. If Mick can study law with everything he's seen, you can dip a toe with an online unit that fits around life.
We've got videos that break this stuff down in bite-sized hits. Leadership, HR, WHS, security, business, marketing, government, project management, the full buffet. Jump on the 3CIR channels and watch one while you're waiting for the dawn service snag to cook.
Okay, loop back to Anzac Day as a living tradition. I love the way older diggers make space for the younger crew, and how the younger crew can show up without feeling like they've got to compare scars. No one's saying your war was better or worse. We're saying, I recognise the shape of your load.
And let's be honest, some days a young vet looks at town and feels like a stranger. You show up to March and it's hugs and beers, then Wednesday hits and you're back to being the guy who can't keep his back to the door at the cafe. That's real. It doesn't make you broken, it makes you human in recovery.
That's it. PTSD isn't a character flaw, it's a stress injury. You wouldn't call a busted ankle a failure of willpower. Same logic. And there are ways through. Therapy, mateship, movement, meaningful work. Some people need medication, some need a mission. Most need both at different times.
I want to say something to families listening. If your partner or kid or parent came home different, your support matters. But you don't have to fix it alone. The community and services exist for a reason. Lean on them. Sometimes the best thing you can do is help open the door to a chat, then step back so the pros can do the rest.
And to the veterans who feel overlooked because the ceremonies lean old school, make yourself visible this year, even if it's just for an hour. Bring a mate who keeps saying maybe. Shake the hand of an older vet who thinks you're too young to have seen anything, and tell one story, not the worst one, the true one. The smell of dust, the heat, the friend who made you laugh when you needed to.
That's the practical trick we teased earlier. Tell a small, specific story that's safe. It gives people a way in. It signals, I'm here, I'm not an exhibit, you do not owe anyone your trauma. But you're allowed to choose a moment that builds a bridge.
I'll go first. There was a day we were wheels down after some turbulence I won't forget, and I step out and the heat was like opening an oven on full blast while someone throws a handful of battery acid in, and the guy next to me goes, smells like victory. I said, it smells like your socks, mate. We both laughed. Little moment. It kept us human.
For me, it was the first time I tried to sleep back home. The silence was too loud. No generators, no radios, no boots on gravel. I ended up putting on white noise like a weirdo. Took weeks. Point is, it's normal for normal to feel weird at first.
And that's why structure helps. If you're coming down from months on high alert, try a decompression plan. Doesn't have to be tactical. Simple stuff. A daily walk, a time-limited catch-up, one admin task, one fun thing, predictable meals. Build a routine that tells your nervous system you're safe now.
Add purpose. Maybe that's work, maybe it's study, maybe it's a community project. One of our listeners emailed saying his RPL into a Cert IV in WHS gave him a reason to get out of bed, because a site team relied on him being squared away. Responsibility can be therapy when it's the right kind.
While we're on therapy, the beer after the march is fine. The case after the march, 4 weeks, is a different beast. Self-medication is seductive because it works for about 30 minutes. Then it writes checks your body and brain can't cache. If you're in that loop, no shame, tell someone today.
Yeah, and if you don't know where to start with us. 3CIR isn't a clinic, but we know the landscape. We can help you map your experience to pathways, put you in touch with resources, and remind you what you're good at when your inner voice has been a bit of a mongrel.
I want to pull on something Mick said about younger vets being left behind. The community often assumes the system's got you. It doesn't always, so be unapologetic about asking for what you need. Recognition, support, credible opportunities, not charity, respect.
Respect looks like employers not flinching at the word veteran. It looks like HR teams understanding transferable skills. Speaking of, if you're in HR or run a business and you want to make a difference, watch our leadership and HR videos. Learn how to onboard a veteran well. You'll get a loyal, problem-solving, mission-focused teammate if you do.
And to the vets eyeing management or project roles, your op orders and battle rhythms translate beautifully into project plans, risk registers, stakeholder comms. You already think in contingencies. A project management qualification just gives you the civilian acronyms.
There's a moment in every transition where you wonder if the best part of your career's behind you. It isn't. But you might need to change the theatre. Mick pivoted to law because he wanted to keep fighting, just with different tools. For you, it could be security, government, business, marketing, even creative stuff. We've seen it all.
I had a mate who thought he'd be bored stiff in government. Turns out he loves investigations and compliance because it scratches that itch to keep people safe without the blast radius. Certificate IV in government opened the door, then he stacked more quals. Now he mentors others doing the same.
And two things can be true. You can be proud of your service and still struggle with the memories. You can love Anzac Day and still dread it. You can march, then go home early. There's no right way to remember. There's your way, and that's enough.
If you've lost mates, and many of us have, that day can hit like a rogue wave. Make a plan for that too. Who you'll call, where you'll go if the pub gets too loud, a bit of sleep the night before, food in your stomach. Slow. The basics. They help.
Also, talk to the families of those mates. They carry their own service. Anzac Day is a chance to look them in the eye and say, "We won't forget," and then show it the other 364 days, even if it's just a message that says, "Thinking of you today."
I want to come back to something we opened with. Every war is different, or every war is the same. The same. Fear, courage, loss, love, the reliance on the person next to you. Different. Tempo, technology, the speed of coming home, the public conversation about what happened. Both truths sit together on Anzac Day.
And all generations are welcome at that table. Young vets, you don't have to be invited. You already earned your place. Old hands, thank you for making space and handing the baton with kindness. The Anzac tradition isn't a static museum piece. It breathes because we all breathe into it.
Quick shout out to the non-service listeners who show up at dawn because someone they love wore a uniform. You belong there too. Ask a question. Listen to the answer. Don't make it weird. And please don't ask, did you kill anyone? Ask, what was your team like? What helped you get through?
If you want to dive deeper into leadership, team dynamics, or how to transform experience into opportunities, check out 3CR's video series. It's practical, not preachy. You'll walk away with something you can use Monday morning.
And if this conversation stirred up something, that's okay. Breathe. Write a note in your phone about one thing you'll do this week. Maybe it's booking an RPL assessment. Maybe it's texting a mate for the first time in months. Maybe it's watching the WHS video so you can stop winging the safety brief at work.
Before we slide into some questions we've been getting, here's a quick list of roles we've seen veterans absolutely smash after transition. Operations manager, safety advisor, HR business partner, security consultant, government compliance officer, project coordinator, small business owner. None of those happened by accident. They happened because someone translated their story.
And not to sound like a broken record, but that's what RPL is for. It's not a favor, it's a framework. It says, yes, this person has demonstrated competence at this level in conditions most civilians will never face. That matters. Employers trust it. It saves you time and cash. Win-win.
All right, couple of frequently asked, Do I have to study before I do RPL? No. RPL assesses what you've already done. If there are gaps, then you study to fill them. Do I need perfect paperwork? Helpful, but not a deal breaker. We help you build the evidence profile. From logbooks to CO letters to operational write-ups. You've got more proof than you think.
And what if my head's not in the game yet? Then start small. One phone call, one email, one unit, momentum, beats, motivation. We'll go at your pace.
Circling back to Anzac Day being a reset. One of my favourite things is the way laughter and tears live side by side. You share a memory that's heavy, then someone tells a ridiculous story about how a certain sergeant lost a boot in a river and insisted it was tactical. That swing is healthy. It means we're alive.
It also means we remember the whole of those we lost, not just the last day. The pranks, the kindness, the dumb grin when the mail finally arrived. Honour isn't just sombre, it's full colour. I think that's what Anzac Day at its best does. It paints a full picture.
And if you're a younger vet thinking, I don't have a spot in that painting, make your own brushstroke. March with your unit if you can. If you can't, march with the Veterans Association. If that's too much, stand on the side and put your hand on your heart. All counts.
Last thought from me on the decompression piece. If after Anzac Day you crash a bit, mood dips like bats, sleep goes weird, the noise of the crowd lingers, normalise it. Give yourself 48 hours of grace. Light exercise, hydration, check in with a mate, limit alcohol. Watch one of the leadership videos to refocus the mind on something constructive. Then, if it sticks around, talk to someone professional.
And tell us how you're going. Your stories help shape what we do next. We're cooking some new resources specifically for that fast landing home challenge. Playbooks for families, micro lessons on nervous system regulation, and templates for translating military tasks into civilian resumes so you don't stare at a blank page.
We're also collecting short clips from veterans on what Anzac Day means to them, not just the big speeches, the small truths. Send yours in. If you're shy, write it. If you're comfortable, record it. Keep it honest, keep it kind.
All right, let's bring this home. Anzac Day is a bridge between different wars, different generations, different ways of carrying the weight. Walk across it at your pace. On the other side, there are tools and people ready to help you rebuild. That's us. That's 3CIR. Courage, commitment, camaraderie, integrity, respect. Those aren't just 5 words we say. They're 5 ways we'll walk with you.
Next episode, we're lifting the lid on something a lot of you have been asking about, the Veterans Affairs Office. You've heard the whispers, feudal, chaotic. We're going there. We'll separate heat from light, bring practical advice, and share stories that'll make you nod, laugh, and maybe throw a cushion at the radio.
In the meantime, check the show notes for links to those videos, RPL info, and a few of the courses we talked about. HR, government, project management, WHS, security, business, marketing. Pick one. Take a step. You've done harder things in worse conditions.
If you're at a dawn service this week, I'll be the one with suspiciously watery eyes and a grin that says, I'm glad you're here. Find your person, grab a snag, tell a small story, and let the day do its work.
We'll see you next time. And hey, look after each other, right?
Exactly.